So I just learned how to draw cute anime girl eyes. I wanna teach you my process, then we can have fun putting colorful eyes basically on everything. Well, hello there, I'm Detroit. Sorry if I sound a bit weird, I have COVID for the second time this year. Anyway, for some reason I was never able to draw anime girl eyes before. I don't know why, I was just blocked. I couldn't, for the life of me, make good looking eyes. But now I do, so subscribe. So anime girl eyes. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let's look at the defining features of this style of eyes. First off, it's too big. These eyes are huge. They are colorful. They have big lashes that wrap around the eye almost, so it's basically makeup and lashes in one. They have a few too many highlights. And I think that's a good start. I couldn't draw them, however, for reasons I ignore, but if any 14-year-old with a DeviantArt account can do it, then why can't I? So I sat down and started practicing, slowly uncovering a process that worked for me. Let's take a look at the drawing and coloring process while I explain the steps. By the way, I made a few of these drawings on the XP Pen tablet and a few on iPad as well, not necessarily in order. I did these practices over a few weeks rather than back-to-back the same day. In the end, the process that I ended up sticking with is the following. First, I sketch. That is how I decide the orientation of the eye, or eyes if the angle is not frontal. If it's looking straight ahead, I won't bother drawing two eyes. I'll make one and duplicate it. So, in the sketching phase, I decide the shape of the eye. Is it really big and tall, like a surprised little girl, or is it more slender and cunning looking? That is decided by the shape of the oval the eye sits in, and the placement of the iris as well. The size of the pupil will also be important, because large pupils usually mean either the environment is dark or the character is more emotional. Thin pupils can mean scared or surprised. Stuff like that I decide during the sketching phase. Of course, if I'm gonna add the eyes to a fully fledged character, the situation dictates all that, but here I'm only drawing the eyes, so I can do whatever I feel like doing. Once the sketching is good enough, I will make another layer and ink. This is relatively fast because the only ink I actually need are the top eyelash, the outer corner / makeup, a small bit of line on the bottom, and the outline of the iris. All the rest will be colors, even the pupil. I almost forgot, I also add the individual lashes. For these you have to remember that the eye is a 3D object, even when drawn on a plane. As such, the lashes on the left side will go to the left, and the ones on the right will go to the right. As for the placement and such, just don't draw too many and keep them apart. The coloring is a bit more messy if you think about it. There are 4 main layers of colors, but then there is a lot of blending work afterwards. The 4 principal things to keep in mind are the iris flat, the pupil and shadow, the light blobs, and the white of the eye. What do I mean by all that, you ask? Let's take a look. First, the base color of the iris. You simply fill the entire iris shape. Make it a bit darker though, it's not actually the important part. Pupil and shadows. The simplest way to draw them is to make the pupil, then have 2 halves of circles above and below it, crossing in the middle. The outside of these circles will be filled with a very dark variation of the base iris color. I wouldn't recommend making it fully black though. Light blobs. I called them that for lack of a better word. In the 2 half circles previously drawn, you will add shapes. Now, these can be any shape actually. I like simple blobs, circles or ellipses sitting on the bottom of the eye, and a few smaller ones on top. Depending on how the shadows will be, the top circle isn't as important as the bottom one, but I like to call back to the same color. The tone of these light blobs is in the same family as the iris flat color, but it needs to be a bit more punchy, lighter and more interesting. For example, for a purple eye, make it blue. For a green eye, make it yellow, and so on. Lastly, the white of the eyes. I would make it a bit on the creamy side rather than full white, or else the highlights will blend with it a bit too much. So now we have the 4 parts that will make the eye. It's time to refine them a bit. When you look at an eye, the top eyelid and the brow even will cast shadow on the top of the eyeball, so we need to shade accordingly. Using a soft brush, you can make the top darker. You can have fun with layer style to find the right balance between the shading of the white and the shading of the iris. I found it didn't look too bad when the shading makes the top half circle blend with the shaded iris. To render the light blob at the bottom of the eye, I like to make it almost 3D, shading it how you would shade a sphere. It just makes it more interesting. Make one side darker than the other, have a slight highlight on the other side, or make the iris a bit darker behind it. Lastly, you need to highlight the eye. What I like to do is use a soft white brush and make a large stroke in the top corner and a smaller stroke in the opposite bottom corner. Next, with a harder jet brush, I make another pass inside the bigger soft stroke. If you want to make it fancy, you can add a smidge of color at one edge of the highlight. Again, we're drawing anime girl eyes, it's fabulous, it's not realistic, so do whatever makes you feel good. And that is my process for drawing the eyes. Now, depending on the vibe, I will blend more or less, add colors here and there, tweak the curves a bit until it feels right. I can't really explain all that, you have to get a feel for it. This is why I drew maybe 6 pairs of eyes in preparation for this video, just to get the feel of it and have it be almost familiar. So I don't really know why it used to be so difficult for me to draw anime girl eyes. Really, when you lay down the process, it's quite simple, especially compared to other things like hands or feet. And it's anime, which basically means you can do anything colorful and it kinda works. So I wondered, how far can I push this concept? I mean, in this video I was only interested in drawing the eyes of anime girls, but you're starting to know me and this prompt seems a bit too easy or too basic for me. I need to add the Detroit touch to it, you know? I will say something first though, I didn't have much time for what I'm about to do, so it's a bit wonky. At the same time, it's kinda the point, I guess, so it might be alright. I wondered, since I've already drawn anime girl eyes, and I don't want to draw anime girls, can I draw anime boys instead? So I started doing that. Behind the beautiful, colorful big eyes, let's add a dude with a square jaw, a shaven head and a strange beard. That's kinda fun to do. There is no pressure whatsoever, I'm already happy with the eyes, which was the reason I practiced, so now it's time to have fun. I spent maybe a quarter of the time I put on the eyes to draw the rest of the picture. Each eye I drew took between 20 minutes and 40 minutes, but the entire face for this dude was less than 10 minutes. As I was practicing drawing eyes, the process was becoming faster and faster, which was good. Another fun time I had was drawing an orc-looking guy and giving him anime eyes as well. Again, I'm not really fond of the finished picture, but it's because I didn't really care about the character, except for the eyes. To finish us off, I just want to share with you this proof of concept that is adding anime girl eyes to any character. So here is a small slideshow of some drawings I did in the past with some of the eyes I drew today. It is really fun to mix and match random styles like this. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned how to draw anime girl eyes. Or at least now you have an idea of how you might want to draw them. Anything kinda goes really. Like this video if this was fun, tell me in the comments what you want to see me draw in the future, and subscribe to see all the fun videos I am planning on making. I'm Detroit and anything looks funny with big colorful eyes. Bye!